OK, we're going to begin with breaking news out of Chad, where the army's announced President Idriss Deby has been killed. The army says he was leading soldiers fighting rebels on the front line. Deby had just won re-election and was one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. Hiba Morgan's joining us now live from Chad's capital, N'Djamena. Hiba, what more do we know about what's been happening?
Well, Rob, what we do have right now is a statement that came from the army itself, which is that President Deby, who's been running the country for more than 30 years and who was set to lead it for another 5 years, passed away from injuries he sustained over the weekend in the fight between the government forces and the rebel group known as the Front for Change and Concord in the northern region of Kanem. Now, let's go back to how this all unfolded. On April 11th, on the day of the election, where Deby was running for a sixth term, the rebels came in from Libya, where they have a non-aggression pact with the Libyan warlord Khalifa Haftar, and launched an attack on a government station at the border region of Tibesti. And then they went on to advance until they reached the region of Kanem, which is about 300 kilometers from the capital in N'Djamena. Now, the statement from the army at the time was that they had launched airstrikes against the rebel groups to prevent them from advancing to the region of Kanem, which is where they were able to reach up until on Saturday of just this weekend. The government then went on to assure the citizens who were panicking here in the capital in N'Djamena that everything was okay and that there was no need to concern and that the rebels will not reach the capital like they had announced. And we also know that President Deby himself went to the front lines along with top army officials to lead the battles against the group and announced later that at least 300 were killed and more than 140 were captured while the rest fled and were being pursued by the government military. Now, we hadn't heard from Deby over the weekend. We didn't hear from him yesterday as well on the day that the National Electoral Commission announced that he had won the election by nearly 80%. We were expecting to hear a statement from him to assure his supporters and to basically welcome the results of the National Electoral Commission. That now will not be happening. We know that we just learned from the army that he had sustained injuries during the battles over the weekend, and those were the reasons, and the injuries were the reasons why he passed away. So he will not be leading the country for the next 5 years.
Hey, but obviously the news is just coming out and we're trying to assess what's going on, but is there any sense from where you are of how the country is going to be reacting to this?
Well, the capital has been very tense, Rob, even before the announcement that their president has passed away. Over the past couple of days, with the announcement that the rebels were advancing towards N'Djamena, lots of stores around the capital were closed. People were mostly staying indoors because they were concerned about the security situation. That only increased yesterday morning when they saw more government troops patrolling the streets, saying that they were worried that these are signs that the government statements that the rebels have been repelled and that they were not advancing may not be correct, and that they could be some threats to their safety. So lots of people opted to stay indoors and lots of stores opted to remain closed. Now, last night we heard celebratory gunfires around the capital in N'Djamena, despite the army saying that that should not be the case because of the panic mode that the people were in. But we heard celebratory gunfire nonetheless around the capital in N'Djamena. Today, things were quite normal. In the morning, we've seen stores opening. People were out and about. They seem to be a little bit more assured after seeing that Deby was poised to lead for another 5 years and that the army has been repelled as per the government statement. We're yet to see how they will react to this. They were very assured this morning. They were in a panic mode yesterday evening and yesterday morning. So things have been very fluid here in the capital in N'Djamena.
Hiba, thanks very much indeed. That's Hiba Morgan talking to us from Chad's capital in N'Djamena. I want to bring in IDRISS, who's live for us in Abuja, has been covering this region for us for many years. The Western countries have often seen Idriss Deby as really a key ally in the fight against armed groups like Boko Haram, for example, and of course now the Front for Change and Concord in Chad. What do you think is going to be the impact of this news on the security situation in the region?
Well, basically, Rob, let's start with Chad itself. Now, succession battle starts. Constitutionally, the Speaker of Parliament is supposed to take over if the president is indisposed. Now, whether or not that will happen, it remains to be seen, because this is a country that has seen a lot of coups, a lot of rebellions internally within its own military, and of course the rebellion in the north as well. Now, regionally, Chad is involved in peacekeeping operations or operations against armed groups in the Lake Chad region, in Central Africa, and other parts of the region as well. So Chad, for many countries in the region, is an important ally in the fight against extremist groups or armed groups that have been operating in that region. For example, Chad played a critical role in displacing Boko Haram from its territory last year after an operation led by the president himself, just like the way he did in the north. He led a force that dislodged Boko Haram fighters and ISWAP fighters from the Lake Chad region, freeing the territory of Chad of these attackers. And he's been a crucial partner for Nigeria. A lot of Chadian forces are currently part of the multinational joint task force, working in Nigeria, working in Niger, working in parts of Cameroon, as well as other parts of the region to keep ISWAP and Boko Haram away. This will mean a very, very tense situation for the region, especially countries that are struggling to deal with these armed groups. So it's very, very critical now. Whoever succeeds Chad or Mr. President Idriss Deby should quickly address the issue or the vacuum that may likely arise in case in the incidents of his death now. So Nigeria, for example, I know is very worried. It needs to handle the situation very, very well. Currently, we've seen an uptick in violence in the Lake Chad region, bordering Chad, as well as parts of the northeast of Nigeria. Apart from Nigeria, Niger Republic also is dealing with an uptick in violence, crossing from Mali into Niger, from Burkina Faso, and Cameroon also has its own share of violence in the recent past. So this is a very, very tense moment for all countries in the region that have, in one way or the other, relied on Chad for collaboration in dealing with armed groups in the region.
You were talking there, Ahmed, about the succession process, but we're just seeing on Chad TV that the army is being quoted as saying that a military council is going to be handling that transition. Now, given the fact that people in Chad had really hoped that this was going to be the end of a fairly prolonged political process and a fairly strenuous one, how do you think that that news is going to go down?
For the politicians, it's a very, very heavy blow to democracy. Whether or not President Idriss Deby was a dictator, whether or not he manipulated the electoral system, that could spell a very, very lethal blow to democracy in that country. These army, in a region where military coups are so prevalent in the recent past, this could mean that Chad will have to wait a long time for it to return to democracy fully. We suspect that this could take probably 3-4 years, unless, of course, there is international pressure to hand over to a democratically elected government or some form of a transitional civilian administration in the region. But for democracy in Chad, that should be, or that will be on hold for many who know the way things work in that country.
Ahmed, I know we're going to be coming back to you in the next few hours as we get more information about what's going on. But for now, Ahmed Idriss, thank you very much indeed.